In today's episode of the Pathwing Presents podcast, I got a very interesting guest here with me today. I'm with John Redig, and he is hailing over as a senior marketing manager and demand generation professional over at FactoryFix. And essentially, what FactoryFix is all about, it's a one-stop recruiting solution to find, great, qualified, and engaged candidates, specifically in the manufacturing industry. So we're taking here a very specific look, there's a huge platform out there of people that FactoryFix has installed, like 550,000 manufacturing workers. So let's tap into that. Let's talk with John about the growth of the company, how he's thinking about the channels, and also learn a little bit about this journey as a demand generation manager. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So John, maybe give people a quick overview. What is FactoryFix all about in your own words?
Well, I think you nailed a couple of the points there in that introduction, so it actually makes my job pretty easy. But yes, you nailed it. It's a recruiting solution that brings together employers and recruiting professionals that obviously have positions looking to fill specifically in the manufacturing industry, and our very extensive network of pros that are a member of our platform. And we have various products that facilitate not only the discovery, but the conversations and the hiring process between.
Very, very good. So obviously, manufacturers are a sweet spot client for you guys that need employees, but is there like some specific characteristics, if people are listening in, like what is a client that really fits really well to your platform?
Right. So when we start talking about niche recruiting solutions, as opposed to more of the generalist job boards and generalist ATSs out there, we are really trying to focus on advising employers how to make some of these manufacturing positions that maybe people aren't even looking at as an opportunity in their job seeker journey here. So we are trying to make those jobs look more attractive. We are advising them on, for example, current market rates, things of that nature. And our CS team has insight into that. They are, again, with the benefit of being a specialized company, we have people who are every day supporting the hiring, sourcing, and assisting with the onboarding of machinists and assemblers and engineers and programmers, all these people who are in high demand and what you would consider a typical factory workplace.
Gotcha. Makes tons of sense. Now, how do these guys learn about you? Like, I mean, is that a typical behavior for them to search for their folks online, or like, what's their journey looking like to get to know FactoryFix?
Yeah, certainly. And this is where it's I kind of do both the demand gen and the I do customer acquisition and user acquisition. So at times there's kind of we need to separate the two in terms of our strategy. But in terms of how recruiters and talent acquisition professionals find out about FactoryFix, that is something that we are actually very urgently working on, because for the most part, there's been a physical presence at HR tech conferences and manufacturing conferences. And we try to bring awareness to our company that way. And then initially, as part of a 0 to 1 strategy, which we'll talk about a little bit later, I have been running paid SEM ads for keywords that are that I would imagine typically an HR or TA professional would be searching for when they're looking for a solution or help sourcing candidates. So things, keywords such as manufacturing recruitment, how to hire manufacturing employees, how to find CNC machinists, etc.
Gotcha. Makes tons of sense. Now, what role do you think then the website plays in that journey? Let's say they find you guys through search. Now, how do you think about the website? Like, what job does it take?
Right. So beyond the ad copy, right, and all the kind of the traditional elements of SEM marketing, when they land on the sites, they probably know very little about us to begin with. And so while, of course, best practices, you want to have the form kind of at the top of the page, you don't want to make it difficult for your potential leads to submit their information to request a demo. However, it is important for us to get some explanation of who we are out there, to above the fold rather. And then we also need to get a little bit of our value prop made very clear in above the fold, as well as some social proof, because again, as a company that probably a lot of people haven't heard of, I think it's encouraging and comforting to potential new prospects to see that we do have a pretty, a good customer base that loves our product. And so we want to get those testimonials out there too.
Very cool. Now, what have you learned as a marketer? Right? You've been obviously with FactoryFix now, but you've been in user acquisition, client services. You've been in that space before. What do you think is important when putting together a website for driving that conversion? So, yes, any approaches, methods, way of thinking, tools that you find helpful when it comes to that?
Well, for me, again, I am not your traditional 15-year marketer. I often like to refer to myself as an analyst who became a performance marketer.
Yep.
And so as such, I really like to lean into an ad platform's automated and smart bidding tools to help me match, of course, the kind of searches that yield a higher intent lead or user. However, there is some nuance, especially in the job board world. Recruiters and job seekers oftentimes have very similar website or behavior on the web. And so it does take a lot of grooming when it comes to making sure that you separate those two audiences into their respective ad campaigns.
Very, very interesting. I mean, it's actually true. Like we had had marketers from very different industries in the recruiting space, and the website is always kind of like two-sided, right? There's always that, recruiting and recruiter part. And now that you're saying that makes a whole lot of sense. Very cool.
And if you don't mind me just interrupting you one more second.
Go ahead.
On that note, it is important to craft or design a landing page that, of course, is B2B specific versus B2C specific. So, for example, very early on, we had a discussion about it's not going to be effective if we land everybody on both sides of the business on the website homepage, for example.
Yep.
And so, yes, we definitely tailor our message for our final URLs, and for example, in my Google Ads campaigns, making sure that people go to a landing page that is catered to their interests.
Yeah, no, makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, it's actually it sounds obvious, but there's a lot of scenarios where people kind of mix those home pages and send them both to the same place, and then nobody really gets the message. So makes a whole lot of sense.
Exactly.
Cool. Yeah, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your journey. You mentioned you have a little bit of an unusual journey in marketing. What I'm curious then is, when you educate yourself as a marketer, when you bite deep into that, platforms that you're using, for example, how do you educate yourself? Like with all the noise out there, where do you find high quality information?
So I try to attend, for example, Google makes their webinars and their product releases public, so you can try and join those. And to be honest, a lot of technical information, and I learned this kind of teaching myself SQL and some other like analytical BI tools and stuff. A lot of technical information is freely and widely available on the internet, right? And so, kind of taking my experience as an analyst, if you at any point in time have a question in your mind that starts with, I wish I could, or what if I, you are probably not going to be the first person to ever think that. Go ahead and do a cursory search on Google or the search engine of your choice, and you're likely going to find some solutions out there. So yeah, it's really just maintain a curious mind and know that there's a lot of other curious people out there, and there's likely a solution for you to find.
Cool. To wrap it up, I got some rapid fire questions. They're a bit of a surprise for our guests, but they're harmless. Hope are you ready for those?
Sure.
What is the last book you read or the last podcast you listened to?
I would say the last podcast I listened to was Path Monk.
That's cheating.
To be honest, I don't know. We've got a little one at home, and so I'm busy. Yeah, there's very little time for.
Okay, no worries at all. What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Definitely, I would say that our product experience for recruiters is a huge place of investment in both our time and resources.
If there would be no boundaries in tech, what would be one thing that you would want to have fixed for your role as a marketer today?
That's a great question. I think a lot of times, marketers struggle or are frustrated with an ad platform's audience targeting. I feel like we have to jump through a couple of hoops in order to really narrow our audience. And so just kind of I guess I would like a more widely available segmentation and be able to be stricter with my definitions.
Gotcha. And for the very last question, right? If we do a little bit of time travel, let's go back to the days of Wayland University, right? You're heading out of
Oh my gosh.
Out of formal education into the world of business and client services and growth. What's the one advice you would give yourself for your journey?
Wow. Yeah. I went to college to be a high school English teacher. So here I find myself, in marketing and in tech. I would suppose, yeah. I mean, even though you may go to college for a specification or what have you, the skills and knowledge and interests that you have along the way don't disappear just because you specialize in something. And so I found myself coming out of college, was not able to procure a teaching position, but started as a fulfillment specialist at a tech company because I've always been interested in computers, and I find that my aptitude's there, and I'm relatively easy to use computers very easily, and that kind of just facilitated the rest of my career growth. So, yeah, keep an open mind. Don't limit yourself to what you quote unquote got formally educated in. And yeah, I guess that would be my advice to myself.
Very cool. Thanks, John. I really appreciate that. And it comes very authentic, very good. Now, to wrap it up, as we basically approaching the end of the interview, I got just basically, I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about FactoryFix, what's the one thing that people should remember?
So I think that there's a sense out there when it comes not just to manufacturing, but for recruiters and talent acquisition professionals, that you kind of have to use the couple of big names out there in the recruiting industry. So I would want people to I would want to remind people that there are, like, for example, FactoryFix is a cost-efficient talent acquisition solution for companies of any size looking to fill recs. And we can serve as either a complementary solution to what you have, what's existing in your arsenal, or potentially replace your current solutions at a lower price and deliver higher quality candidates. And so not just for me from FactoryFix, but I would just encourage HR professionals to always be on the lookout, to never be satisfied with your current solution set, because new technologies, new products, new services are always emerging, and they could very well be better than what you have now. So always have an investigative and curious mindset again.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathway Presents.
Thank you very much.